Over the last couple weeks, the U.S. government shutdown has been one of the biggest news stories across the country. Now, I don't know at this moment as we're talking right now if the government shutdown is going to be ending anytime soon, a truce or anything along that. But the way this thing has been conducted, I think is disgusting on all parts, on all parties around. Frankly, when the whole shutdown started, I really began to blame the Republicans for this simple fact. The budget deals got thrown through on the U.S. House, and basically they put in the stripping of the Obama health care law, knowing that it was a poison pill. It would never go through the Senate. It would never go through the presidential office. Now, obviously, the Republicans did that too, well, for some kind of negotiations. But the Democrats in the Senate and the president himself are completely unwilling to negotiate unless they get, well, what they want, they say. A lot of people might feel that our system is broken. Right now, it's not functioning at the greatest level that we've seen. However, it is far from broken. Remember, we've had the longest continual form of government compared to any other country in the world. Over 200 years of a consistent and continual representative democracy here in the United States. Our forefathers, when they wrote the Constitution, did not write the Constitution to make it easy for things to get done. Far from it. They didn't want government to have a whole lot of intrusive action into our lives. That's why they made it difficult for governments to pass laws. They also, our forefathers, are very smart in this capacity. The House of Representatives has control of the purse strings in this country. It was designed that way by the forefathers. That's why the House of Representatives, each district in a state is broken up by roughly the same amount of population, and some states have more members, some states have less, with every state guaranteed at least 3, and that's why in the House of Representatives they run for election every 2 years. Our forefathers wanted these people in charge of the purse strings for the government to be most accountable to the people at home. Now, here's a twist in history and the way our government works that you might not understand or know. The House is supposed to be the one with the purse strings. The Senate is supposed to be the check on the president. And this Senate is not checking the president whatsoever. Prior to 1913, senators were not elected by the people. They were not elected by you and I. They were elected by the state legislatures they represent. That's why each state got 2. They were a check on the president. That's why the Senate's responsible for appointing the cabinet of the president. The Senate's responsible for also approving treaties and international agreements. They act as that check. Plus, they have a 6-year term, again, to act as a check on the president. The House is supposed to be more domestic. And after all, this health care law was passed back in, well, 2010, when it was a Democrat-controlled House and Senate. In other words, the Democrats passed this law without one single Republican vote. Now, unfortunately, they're having trouble funding that bill without any Republican votes. And since they passed it without them, why can't they fund it without them? Well, because this country said no. In 2010, it changed in the House. It went back to Republican hands. In 2012, it could have went back Democrat. It did not. It stayed in Republican hands. Mr. President, you have to negotiate with the people that have the purse strings. You have to negotiate with them. And on a side note here before we end, I find it very appalling that you would close the National Mall to tourists and to residents that come there that just want to see the mall. Yet, you opened the National Mall up to an immigration rally to make illegal aliens become legal citizens of the United States, to try to push that agenda when it comes to immigration reform. In fact, 8 congressmen were arrested in that protest, including District 5 Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison from Minneapolis, who consequently is also the only Muslim member of the United States Congress. They went so far as to ban World War II vets from seeing their own memorial, which they fought for. Yet illegal immigrants who shouldn't be here anyway have all the right in the world to stand in the National Mall and protest. There is something sickly wrong with our government when that's acceptable.